Good morning, children. Welcome to the new section of your English class. There are two parts in English, language and literature. And here I begins with the literature. Chapter 1, The Eyes Have It, which is written by Ruskin Bond. Can you imagine being blind for a day? Here, the writer tells about the story of two blind people who accidentally met in a compartment. And let me introduce the author, Ruskin Bond. He is the famous Indian writer who's still alive. He did his schooling from Bishop's Cotton School in Shimla. He won the Sahitya Academy Award for his collection of essays, Our Trees Still Grow in Dera in 1991. Today, he is the most famous author in India and lives in Missouri. The Eyes Have It, originally published in Contemporary Indian English Stories, is a popular short story by Ruskin Bond. Later, it was included in many other collections such as The Eyes Are Not Here, The Girl on the Train, etc. Bond, whose house is built in the lap of nature, has most of his stories set in Missouri. Influenced by great English writers like Charles Dickens and Thomas Hardy, Bond likes to write about common people and their issues. Let me summarize this chapter. I will give you a short explanation of the story. The story when the narrator narrates by a person. The story is narrated by the person who himself is blind. His eyes are sensitive only to light and darkness. While going to Dehradun by train, he comes across a girl. He starts conversation and gradually he becomes interested in her. He tactfully hides his blindness from that girl to impress her. We know the boys do such lot of things. But the conversation does not last long. The girl bids him goodbye as the train arrives her destination. After her departure, a new male passenger comes into the compartment. Yes, here the fellow passenger comes. From that man, the narrator learns that the girl was completely blind. The revelation shocks the narrator. Yeah, he was shocked knowing that she is completely blind. He feels that he has deceived himself. This is an ironical twist that makes the end of the story. This is an this is an ironical twist that makes the end of the story so appealing. So I hope you follow the story. And moving to the chapter. Take Now we can begin the chapter. Read. I had the train compartment to myself up to Rohana. Then a girl got in. The couple who saw her off were probably her parents. They seemed very anxious about her comfort, and the woman gave the girl detailed instructions as to where to keep her things, when not to lean out of the windows, and how to avoid speaking to strangers. So the girl entered into the train, and already our narrator was sitting over there, and he was listening the conversation which was going in between the girl and her parents. They called their goodbyes and the train pulled out of the station. As I was totally blind at that time, my eyes sensitive only to light and darkness, I was unable to tell what the girl looked like, but I knew she wore slippers from the way they slapped against her heels. It would take me some time to discover something about her looks, and perhaps I never would. But I liked the sound of her voice and even the sound of her slippers. So our author is blind. He is sensitive only to the light and the darkness. So he was not able to see her yet. But he listened to her voice. Her voice is so sweet. So he loved her voice. And he asked, "Are you going all the way to there?" I asked. So the narrator asked her, "Where are you going?" I must have been sitting in a dark corner because my voice startled her. She gave a little exclamation and said, "I didn't know anyone else was here." Well, it often happens that people with good eyesight fail to see what is right in front of them. They have too much to take in, I suppose. Whereas people who cannot see or see very little have to take in only the essentials, whatever registers tellingly on their remaining senses. "I didn't see you either," I said, "but I heard you come in." I wondered if I would be able to prevent her from discovering that I was blind. So here the author, the narrator, started a conversation. He wants to talk to this girl. That's why he begins the conversation. But already the girl was warned not to talk with the strangers, so she doesn't really wants to talk to the author. And provided I keep to my seat. I thought it shouldn't be too difficult. The girl said, "I am getting off at Saharnarpur. My aunt is meeting me there." "Then I had better not get too familiar," I replied. "Aunts are usually formidable creatures." "Where are you going?" she asked. "To Dera or than to Missouri?" "Oh, how lucky you are. I wish I were going to Missouri. I love the hills, especially in October." So almost the narrator and the girl begins their conversation. She set her destination. She wants to go to Saharnarpur and her auntie is waiting for her. And a narrator said, when she asked to the narrator, "Where you are going?" he said, he is going to Thera and from there to Missouri. And she said, "Oh, you're going to Missouri. It's a nice place." She loves the hills over there, especially during the time of October. "Yes, this is the best time," I said, calling on my memories. "The hills are covered with wild lilies. The sun is delicious, and at night you can sit in front of a log fire and drink coffee. Most of the tourists have gone, and the roads are quiet and almost deserted." Yes, October is the best time. So he started imagine the climate and the weather, the surroundings which he been through October days once he was in Missouri. When he was in Missouri, explained about the sun. He explained the way he drinks coffee and how he used it to see, how he sees the fire, how he enjoys the fire, and how all over how he enjoys October. She was silent. I wondered if my words had touched her or whether she thought I was romantic fool. Then I made a mistake. "What is it like outside?" I asked. Author really want to hide his blindness from that girl, but slip off tongue, a kind of slip off tongue. Author again asked, "What is it like outside?" She become, and before that she become completely silent, hearing to the words of author. And the author thought that maybe he becomes so romantic to that girl, or maybe his words has been touched her, and he was not able to find out the exact reaction of the girl as he was blind. She seemed to find nothing in strange the question. Had she noticed already that I could not see? But her next question removed my doubts. "Why don't you look out of the window?" she asked. I moved easily along the berth and felt for the window ledge. The window was open and I faced it, making a pretense of studying the landscape. I heard the panting of the engine, the rumble of the wheels, and in my mind's eye, I could see telegraph posts flashing by. Have you noticed, I ventured, that the trees seem to be moving while we seem to be standing still? That always happens, she said. Do you see any animals? No, I answered quite confidently. I knew that there were hardly any animals left in the forest near there. So here the journey continued, but the narrator did something foolish. He asked the girl how the world outside looked. He blamed himself for it. Soon he was cheered because the girl asked him the question, why don't you look out of the window? It makes him cheered but felt hurt. Why couldn't she reply politely? I turned from the window and faced the girl, and for a while we sat in silence. Why, you have an interesting face, I remarked. I was becoming quite daring, but it was a safe remark. Few girls can resist flattery. She laughed pleasantly, a clear, ringing laugh. It's nice to be told I have an interesting face. I am tired of people telling me I have a pretty face. Oh, so you do have a pretty face, I thought, and aloud I said, well, an interesting face can also be pretty. You are a very gallant young man, she said. But why are you so serious? I thought then what I would try to laugh for her, but the thought of laughter only made me feel troubled and lonely. Well, we will soon be at your station, I said. Thank goodness it's a short journey. I can't bear to sit in a train for more than 2 or 3 hours. Yet I was prepared to sit there for almost any length of time, just to listen her to talking. Her voice had the sparkle of a mountain stream. As soon as she would leave the train, she would forget our brief encounter. But it would stay with me for the rest of the journey and for some time after. The engine's whistle shrieked. The carriage wheels changed their sound and rhythm. The girl got up and began to collect her things. I wondered if she wore her hair in a bun or if it was plaited. Perhaps it was hanging loose over her shoulders. Or was it cut very short? The train drove slowly into the station. Outside there was a Outside there was the shouting of porters and vendors and the high-pitched female voice near the carriage door. That voice must have belonged to the girl's aunt. Goodbye, the girl said. She was standing very close to me. So close that the perfume from her hair was tantalizing. I wanted to raise my hand and touch her hair, but she moved away. Only the scent of perfume still lingered where she had stood. There was some confusion in the doorway. A man getting into the compartment stammered an apology. Then the door banged and the world was shut out again. I returned to my berth. The guard blew his whistle. So here the train was drawing near to Saharanpur. The girl said she was relieved that the journey was coming to an end. She was happy because she does not want to travel more than 3 hours in train. But the narrator was not. He was a romantic fool. He was willing to travel with the girl for any length of train. He was willing to travel with the girl for any length of time. The train came to the halt. So they reached the place, the destination. The girl collected her things. The narrator wondered if the girl had her hair in a bun or got it plaited. The girl's aunt received her at the station. The girl said goodbye and left the coach. While she moved away, the narrator smelled the tantalizing scent of her perfume. There was some confusion in the doorway. A man getting into the compartment stammered an apology. Then the door banged and the world was shut out again. I returned to my berth. The guard blew his whistle and we moved off. Once again, I had a game to play and a new fellow traveler. The train gathered speed. The wheels took up their song. The carriage groaned and shook. I found the window and sat in front of it, staring into the daylight that was darkness for me. So many things were happening outside. The window, it could be a fascinating game guessing what went on out there. The man who had entered the compartment broke into my revival. You must be disappointed, he said. I'm not nearly as attractive a traveling companion as the one who just left. She was an interesting girl. I said, can you tell me, did she keep her hair long or short? So, in between, the other passenger, when the halt came, when the girl stepped out of the train, the another passenger got in. The narrator thought he must have come in the girl's way. And later the doors were shut again. The train moved out of Sharanpur station. And the narrator felt heavy heart because he wants to travel with the girl for a lengthy time. The new passenger attempted, like he begins the conversation. You must be disappointed, he said. Like that's the way the narrator. The new passenger attempted striking a conversation. You must be disappointed, he said. Thus, the way the new fellow being in the train begins his conversation. He said he was not. The new passenger, the fellow passenger said he was not as attractive a co-passenger as the girl. And the narrator asked the man about the girl's hair. Was it short or long? That's what the question. I don't remember, he said, sounding puzzled. It was her eyes I noticed, not her hair. She had beautiful eyes, but they were of no use to her. She was completely blind. Didn't you notice? So the passenger, while listening to the question of the narrator, the passenger was puzzled. Why did this man ask this? And he said, I don't know about her hair, but I clearly knew about her eyes. Her eyes was beautiful. She was completely blind, and he asked the question, didn't you notice? Here the chapter ends. So the conclusion, well, the story, the eyes have, it teaches a very valuable lesson. God has given a fair share of luck and talent to each and every individual in this world. Okay, so we all are filled with a lot of talents. So instead of hiding our shortcomings, we must appreciate what we have and not complain about what we do not have. This is what all about the chapter is. And thus in this chapter you can see the situational irony. Situational irony, it's a literary device in which both the characters and the reader are unaware of the implications of the real situation. Another example, I can give you the another example for this irony from the book's name. I can give you the another apt example for the situational irony. The Gift of Maggie, written by O. Henry. In the story, a wife sells her most prized possession, her hair, to get her husband a Christmas present, a fob for his watch. On the other hand, the husband sells his most dear possession, his treasured gold watch, to get his wife a Christmas present, a combo. In the end, both the presents are unusable. So this is what the situational irony is. And in this story, which is written by Ruskin Bond, the eyes have it, the situational irony is both the narrator and the girl traveled together. Both they were blind and they both tried to hide their disability. So I hope children you enjoy the story, the short story which is written by Ruskin Bond. Thank you. Stay safe. Stay in touch.